So this time on Tickle Talk, I've been having a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and one of the main conversations I've been having is about mental health. And this sort of hits home for me because of where I've been in my life and how I felt about myself and how I, just didn't think it had anything to do with like my mental health. I thought that having low self-esteem or being depressed was something that was normal. And come to find out it's totally not normal. So, to be brutally honest with my lovely fan base, um, I'll start from my beginning and then I'll lead up to some, giving people some tips on how to deal with certain situations and certain mental health, you know, things that you may need. So I'm going to begin with, of course, the teenage years. The teenage years for a lot of people is really rough. And that's when you see a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. That's where like a lot of that starts to build up. Even though it stems from something like so further deep within, but like your emotions and everything about your emotions and your feelings, like they start to come out because at that point in time in life, that's when your hormones and everything are very prominent. So for me, it started around like 13. Many people may not know this, but I grew up in and out of the foster care system. So that was something that, was always on my mind, and it kind of had me depressed. Only because, not being around your own family all the time. And I was glad to know that I knew my own family, but a lot of the time, even when you live with your family, your mom is still your mom, and it doesn't feel the same when you live with aunts, uncles, cousins, or any other family members, and especially not with strangers. But for me, that's when depression came along, and it was something that was very it's traumatizing. Like, I know I was traumatized, but the way I coped with it was sort of like keeping to myself and continuously like writing or school, period. Like school for me, writing and music, and those were the things that like took me along and helped me cope with a lot of, the stress and anxiety and depression, like of being a teenager. So, like, of course, your hormones are like raging all over the place when you're a teenager. So you don't really think like I'm depressed. So like that usually fades away, and you tend to keep on during your teenage years, a lot of the time when dealing with those things, you have people to talk to, you have counselors, you have parents, you have friends, you have all of that stuff. But nobody thinks about when everybody becomes an adult. So, like, adults, like, females get a lot of help. And when I say that, I mean, they look to females to, be depressed and go through postpartum depression, go through, just sort of depression because of certain things that we have to go through as women. But nobody really talks about how men have to deal with a lot of these things. A lot of the times, like, men don't feel like they have an outlet. And I truly believe it's true. Like, nobody really talks to them like as like a human being. Like, you're a man, you're supposed to be macho, have all this pride, do all these things, and like your mental health is like not top priority. And I feel like it's unfair, and especially in the African American community, like women and men alike, like we don't have the same opportunities as a lot of our um counterparts. But I feel like as time go on, just making people more aware that it's, a thing. Um, it can shine light on the horrible the horrible issue of mental health issues. Um, Mental health issues come in all shapes and sizes. As an adult, I know I deal with depression, anxiety, in which I just found out I had anxiety. Like, I didn't know what it was, and it was pretty scary because when you don't know you have something, how are you supposed to react to it? Anxiety, and there are a few more things that people dealing with mental health. Just, but the number one issue from a lot of people is depression. Um, a lot of the signs for depression differ from each person, and when you're dealing with depression, you know, a lot of us mask it because we have so many other things. Minorities as a whole, whether you're African American like me, Hispanic, or the Asian community, whatever community you're from, and we have our own issues when it comes to being different. So we don't have a chance in a lot of our communities to deal with depression and all of these things. But what I'm going to say is about all of this is it's okay. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to have anxiety. But what we have to do is we have to learn to ask for help. I'm not going to tell who it was, but somebody really close to me, was on the verge of, hurting themselves. And, if you know that person, you would be like, what? Why would they even try to, hurt themselves? Their whole life, they're this, it was a guy, he was, this macho guy, he's, doing all the things, he's, top boss, but, to hear that person want to not live on earth anymore, and for me it was something trivial, for them it wasn't trivial, but just to hear somebody going through that, as a kid, of course, I've had my spouts of doing things that were not normal, i.e. trying to harm yourself. But, I look back at it now, okay, that was something that was, completely drastic. May have been attention-seeking. I was still a child. But I kind of believe that, everything stems from somewhere. And for a lot of us, the trauma that has been going on in our lives for years and years and years, or even the trauma that happened plenty of years ago that you never really talked to anybody about. That trauma is very real, and it's something that can affect your whole life. I know that not talking about it, not opening up is something that attributes to that, but I know that by talking about it, it just gives you a clear mind. It gives you a clear mind on the fact of you can definitely get through it. I mean, you're never going to forget it. It's something that you're never going to forget. But whatever trauma it is, you can always, get help. Get help. Make sure that, you are where you want to be mentally. Because if you're not there mentally, there's not much you can do for other people. And a lot of us have families and loved ones who really care about us. So, seeking help, counseling, and everything doesn't need to necessarily be a professional, but like have that person that you can go to at any point in time and like talk to them. No judgment, no, just being able to be vulnerable with that person. If you're vulnerable with that person, then you can definitely, open up a huge book of different things that that it will always be safe with that person, and then that person will never like disobey your trust. I know that there are so many people out there who definitely are going through these things such as depression, anxiety, and there's not a lot of people to talk to. But I say that you definitely like find a person. Whether you find a notebook and it leads to a person, whether you find counseling from your job, from your school, from wherever you find counseling from, I just ask you that you go get help, because sometimes we can't do it on our own, and coping doesn't help all the time. Coping is just for that moment. It's not for a forever thing, and a lot of us need to learn that. But as time winds down, I thank everyone for watching this video. I would like it if you love it, like it, subscribe. And it's your girl Pre, and I'm signing off for Twinkle Talk. Let's talk again next time. Peace.